Hello and welcome to Awaz News. I'm Kubrali and I'll be taking you through big news across Canada. Suspected impaired driver caused head-on crash after heading wrong way on Highway 41 near Milton, Police. Long way home blamed for affordability crisis. Liberals look to pivot on housing. Economists expect rise in inflation as price growth fight enters new phase. Survey shows employers, workers might be aligning on hybrid work. Scarborough man 25 drowns in Lake Ontario OPP. Man in life-threatening condition after scooter crash in Mississauga. Those were the headlines, and let's jump right into the details. Ontario Provincial Police say a driver heading the wrong way on Highway 401 near Milton this morning has been taken into custody following a head-on crash that left one person seriously injured. Police said the crash occurred in the westbound lanes of the highway near Guelph Line. According to police, a driver was heading in the wrong direction on the highway when they collided with another vehicle. The driver of the other vehicle was transported to hospital with serious injuries. The wrong-way driver was arrested on suspicion of impaired driving, police said. The westbound lanes of the highway were closed at Guelph Line for several hours, but all lanes have reopened. Forecasters anticipate this week's consumer price index report to show inflation rose last month, signaling a reversal in progress after a year of steady declines in inflation. Canada's annual inflation rate fell back to the country's target range in June for the first time since March 2021, tumbling to 2.8%. But economists expected the victory against high inflation to be short-lived as underlying price pressures suggest it will take some time for inflation to return to the 2% target. I think it's going to be a bit of dash of reality for everyone, including the Bank of Canada, that basically the easy phase is over and now the hard work begins, said Douglas Porter, BMO's chief economist. Both BMO and CIBC expect inflation to come in at 3.1% in July, largely due to higher gasoline prices. The US experienced a similar uptick in inflation last month as its annual rate rose to 3.2%, up from 3.0% in June. Porter said although lower gasoline prices have driven the decline in inflation over the last year, rising prices may start to add to inflationary pressures. A rise in inflation in July's report probably wouldn't be a complete surprise to the Bank of Canada. Its most recent forecasts show it's expecting inflation to hover around 3% over the next year before steadily declining to 2% by the mid-2025. The central bank said the new projections pushed its governing council to hike rates again in July by a quarter of percentage point as it looks to get inflation down faster. The Bank of Canada's key interest rate now sits at 5.0%, the highest it's been since 2001. Although Porter doesn't expect the Bank of Canada to raise interest rates again in September, he says it's difficult to rule another rate hike. After announcing a pause on rate hikes in January, the Bank of Canada came off the sidelines in June and started raising interest rates again in response to a hot string of economic data. Both economic growth and the labor market have been performing expectations this year, but signs of softening are starting to emerge. The labor market is no longer as tight as it was last year, and the unemployment rate has been on the rise. Porter said the steadily increasing should be given to the central bank pause as economists anticipate unemployment to continue to rise. While many economists share Porter's expectations that interest rates will not continue to rise, CIBC Executive Director of the Economics, Andrew Gartham, says he expects another rate hike. One of the reasons why our current forecasts actually have one more interest rate hike from the Bank of Canada is that the Bank of Canada does seem to be kind of leaning towards the risk of doing too much, Gratham said. They would rather get inflation back to target quicker rather than later. The central bank's next interest rate decision is slated for September 6th. Chris Burke and his fiancée have been less than a year away from buying their first home for the past 3 years. Saving for a down payment was the first challenge. Now rising interest rates have kicked homeownership down the road again, stalling the couple's plans to get married and have children. Any gains we make towards purchasing a house, we're watching the goalposts moving further and further away. 31-year-old Ottawa resident said. Feeling stuck, as Burke put it, is a sentiment shared by many young Canadians who are increasingly pessimistic about their home ownership prospects. For the federal Liberals, the growing discontent with the state of housing market is becoming a political threat. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre has taken direct aim at the Liberals for the state of housing market, highlighting the dramatic increases in home prices, rents, and even interest rates. According to Canadian Real Estate Association, the national average price of a home sold was $709,000 in June 2023, up from $455,000 in October 2005, when the Liberals first came to power. And the cost of getting a mortgage has soared, following a series of aggressive interest rates increases by the Bank of Canada in response to rising inflation following the COVID-19 pandemic. Rent prices have also skyrocketed, with some cities seeing double-digit increases over the last year. Trudeau has tried to deflect for the housing crisis recently, saying there are limits to what the federal government can do. His remarks were quickly blasted by Poilievre, who reminded people of earlier promises Trudeau had made on housing. Most experts agree that Ottawa isn't solely responsible for the problem, but many say the federal government could still be doing more to alleviate the shortage of housing at the root of affordability crunch. New data from recruiting company Robert Half shows just over half of hiring managers see a team's ideal working location to be a combination of remote and in-office workers. The survey found 54% of hiring managers asked said a hybrid arrangement was the ideal situation. The result compared with 49% of professionals surveyed who said they believed the ideal situation was a combination of remote and in-office workers. The survey also found 38% of hiring managers saw everyone working in office as the ideal situation, while 28% of professionals saw it as ideal. Everyone working remotely was seen as ideal by 8% of hiring managers and 22% of professionals surveyed. The report was based on online survey of 1,373 hiring managers between May 4th and May 13th and 1,148 workers between May 4th and May 30th. A 25-year-old man from Toronto drowned in Lake Ontario Saturday afternoon, police say. Ontario Provincial Police said officers from its Northumberland detachment were called to the east side of the pier in Cobourg, Ontario just after 4 p.m. as a man appeared to be in distress in the water. Police said he had gone under the water and never resurfaced. OPP Cobourg Emergency Services and the Joint Rescue Coordination Center searched the water and found him. The Scarborough man was rushed to the hospital where he died. Police did not provide further details about the victim. Police say a man has life-threatening injuries after his scooter crashed in Mississauga late Sunday night. Officers were called to a residential area near Humrick and Veracruz Drives just before midnight, police said. Peel Regional Police told Awaz News on Monday morning that the man remains in critical condition after a single-vehicle collision. The circumstances leading up to the crash are unclear. Investigators are canvassing the area for video of the incident. Images from the scene show what appears to be an electric scooter laying on the front lawn of nearby residents as police occupy the scene. Road closures in the area have been lifted.
Thank you for tuning in. I'm Kubra Ali. I'll see you back tomorrow, same time, same channel. Have a good night.